Hello and welcome back to another Farmer Sim Giant Slayer tutorial, and today I'm back on the sample mod map, and what I want to actually have a look at today is triggers. We've imported our shiny new mods, in this particular case the pig and beef fattening plus the horse, but now we actually need to set something up to be able to sell them. Now I've done this off screen if you like, and then tested it and it's given me what I need, but I never actually, I don't believe I've actually ever done it on screen. So hopefully that's what we're going to do today, and then explain best I can how I go about setting that all up. So what I need to do first of all is find a trigger. So I'm just going to come over to here, and again, as I say, this is a sample mod map, so it comes with pretty much everything you would ever need, besides the actual mods themselves, like what we've imported over there or what I've imported over there. So over here I've got a grain station trigger, standard trigger, nothing fancy about it. It's got what I need in it though, so that's going to work for me. So I'm just going to come back over to the area just here. Now I won't actually be going into game and selling anything. What I want to do is just show you how to set the trigger up, how to set the price multipliers up, and then what we hope to get from it. So I want to put a trigger over here, so what I'm going to do is go left control and D for delta on my keyboard, make a copy of it, then I'm going to go into my taskbar, edit, interactive placement, and bring it over to an appropriate place. For this setup anyway, that will do just fine. Okay, so now I've got my trigger and everything else over here. What I can do now is actually expand that trigger, or that unload pit, by clicking on the plus, and I'm going to open that up. We've got some bits and pieces in here which gives us collisions and things like that, and grates and whatever else to make up our entire pit itself, unload pit. So what I want to do here though is actually, I'm not going to get too much into the rest of it. You can play around with that if you so choose to, but the part that I want to look at is the grain station trigger. So in here we've got some bits and pieces which again I'm not going to get into too deep. All I want to look at here is the fruit types and the actual price multipliers and the station name. Everything else I'm just going to leave as it is, don't need to play around with that at all. So first of all, what we're going to be selling here potentially would be horses, pigs and beef. So I don't want these fruit types. I've got wheat, barley, rape, maize, sugar beets and potatoes. Don't want any of that. So what I'm going to do here is just highlight the whole lot, click delete on my keyboard and get rid of the whole everything. So what I want to do now though is actually put in here what I want to sell, which will be, as I say, horses, pigs and beef. But I need to look to see how it's spelt, and I know this sounds weird, but remembering that a lot of these mods are set up in German, so this particular setup here, the pig and beef fattening station, is actually called the Schweinemast, which is German. So you can understand that potentially you could have Schwein for pig, and I think it's Rinder for beef. So perhaps you could have it set up that the actual trigger would need to have those fruit types put in there if they've been registered in that particular way. And then again on horse mast, this is again in German I believe. I'm not sure what the actual setup would be if it was horse in German, but again the potential of it being in German, the fruit type registered in German, maybe that is the case. So we need to just double check that we're actually putting in the fruit type as it's been registered in the mod itself, in its appropriate language or whatever else, because it will matter if you put it in and type it incorrectly, spell it incorrectly or whatever else, it will not recognize it. It needs to be exactly the same as it's in the registered, as it's been registered in the game itself. So what I need to do here is actually just minimize this down, and I'm going to go into map, models, buildings, Schweinemast, and in here I've got a trigger, or a script, sorry, called reg field types. If I right click that and open that in Notepad++, open this script up, and we get our animals plus a few other bits and pieces, but we're only interested in the animals. What's been registered? Now the ones which are in blue or purple I would say probably, whatever colour that is, those are the ones that are actually active. The ones that are in green, so we've got like here table insert in green, but then this table insert is in purple. It's only these ones that are active. The ones that are in green all the way across with no other colours, they are deactivated. They will not be registered on this particular map, because all I've got is pig, young pig, beef, young beef, horse and young horse. So I don't want anything else to be registered, because I haven't got anything else on the map that I'm playing with at the moment. So what I want to look at here is the actual spelling of the registered field type. So if I've got pig, beef, so what I want to do here is basically copy pig and then paste that into my fruit type, put a space. Then I've got my beef, so I want to copy that, paste that in, put a space. Then I want to look at the horse, copy that, paste it in, put a space. If you're putting more and more and more on the end, then you need to put spaces. I'll delete the space because that's all I'm putting in now. I'm just putting in pig, beef and horse, so I don't need anything else. We've chosen the pig, beef and horse, not the young pig, young beef and young horse, because we are selling an adult animal what has been fattened up. So we would purchase a young animal and then fatten it up to make it into an adult animal, and then sell the adult animal for whatever price we can get for it. So it needs to be the adult version of that particular registered animal that we put in our trigger. Okay, so the next thing I need to look at here is our triggers, our price multipliers. And what we've got here is the price multipliers set up originally for the wheat, barley, maize, corn, maize, rape, potatoes and sugar beets. So I don't need those. So what I'm going to do is, again, highlight all of those and delete them, like so that they're all gone. Then coming back to my reg field type script here, you can see we've actually got prices for our particular animals. So pig is a price of 0.3, beef is 0.12, horse is 0.1. So we need to get an appropriate price multiplier to get a good return on our item that we're going to be selling. But the first thing I need to do is actually look to see how much these animals cost. So I'm going to look that up and I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so what I've done here is I've actually opened up the XML files for the appropriate animals, and we've started off with our pig. So we've gone into the pig husbandry.xml, and this just explains what the actual name of it is. And as I said before, you need to be aware that it can be in German, so Schwein for pig is obviously like so. Now this would just be what's displayed in the actual in-game menu, depending on what language you're playing the game in. But as I say, you need to make sure that when you're setting up this particular trigger that it is actually spelt in a specific way, and it is whatever language it's put in, registered as, then that's what you need to put into that trigger. But we've already covered that, so we'll move on. So moving on down here, we can see in our pig husbandry.xml the actual price that we would pay in store for that particular animal is £50 in my case, because I'm playing in pounds. So if we go across to the beef husbandry.xml, same again, and we've got our price at £250. And then if I come across to horse price with £3,500. So what I need to do is set up my price multiplier to give me a good return on each of these purchase prices, because you have to remember that you're actually not just buying the animal itself at £3,500, you need to then collect your grain, your straw, and then create your TMR or whatever else. You need to give it water, which depending on the map you're playing with, it may have a free water source, but if it has a standard setup, you need to pay for your water, so that costs quite a little bit of money. So you need to get a good return on your purchase price on your horses or your beef or your pigs or whatever animal you're working with, so it covers the cost of all these parts that you need to apply to fatten them up. So what we're going to have a look at now then is we start off with the pig. So we know that pig, we pay £50 per pig. So if I go back into the actual reg field types here, the script, and I look at pig, I've got a price multiplier of 0.3. So if I bring up my calculator here, so if I'm paying £50, what I want to get realistically is I want to double my money. So I want to get £100 back, or thereabouts approximately per pig, to cover my costs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually type in 100 and I'm going to divide that by 0.3, which will give me a price multiplier of 333.3, etc, etc. So I'm just going to put in 334, that'll do. So what I'm going to do here is put in a price multiplier under pig, and the price multipliers need to be underneath or in alignment with each animal. So we start with pig, so that's the price multiplier I need to put in for that animal. I can't put 334 along here somewhere under horse and expect that to be applied to pig. So it follows on suit. So pig is the first animal, so that must be the first multiplier. Then we move on to beef. So looking across at our beef, we know we're going to be paying £250 for them in store. So coming back into my reg field types, we can see that price is 0.12. So if I'm paying 250, I want at least 300 for each fattened beef that I sell. I'm going to say at least 300. So if I start off with 300, we'll see what we get here. So if I go 300 divided by 0.12, so I've got a price multiplier of 2,500. So I can put that in, put a space, and then 2,500. So on hard mode, and it does matter what difficulty mode you're playing with. Now, I do generally play on difficulty mode hard, so these price multipliers and the prices that I will get back for each animal will only be relevant in this case for the hard difficulty mode. As you go down in difficulty mode, so if you're playing in easy, you will get much more than what we're going to get here, because the hard difficulty mode is a 1-to-1 ratio, but the other difficulty modes do not. So basically I'm just working with the hard difficulty mode here, so that's the price I'm going to get, but only in that difficulty mode. Okay, so moving on to the next one for our horse. So again, I'm going to bring up the actual XML. So we've got 3,500 we're getting for our horse. So I want to get, let's say I want to get 5,000. I want to get 5,000 per horse. I think that's a good price. So what I need to do here is go back into your reg field types, and I've got 0.1. So I'm going to say that's a price multiplier of 50,000, but we'll just check that. So if I cancel all of that, so I've got 5,000, which is what I'm expecting to get, divided by 0.1, 50,000. So in there, I now need to put in a price multiplier of 50,000. So I have my price multiplier set up to give me what I expect to get return-wise when I sell these particular animals. And we will check that in game. And as I said, I'm not going to sell any animals. I'm not going to actually buy any and then fatten them up and sell them. All I'm going to do is go into game briefly and look at the storage prices page, so we can actually see what we do get and prove that these multipliers do work, and set up what I want them to give back on each of the animals I'm going to sell. But I'm not actually going to sell any animals. Okay, so what I want to do now though is I want to change the station name, because what I've done here is I've made a copy of the station or the trigger from way over there somewhere, and I can't have two triggers with the same name. So what I need to do is actually overwrite this. So I'm going to just highlight the whole lot, delete it, and then I'm going to type in here cattle market. Now obviously you could set this up with some pens and bits and pieces, and perhaps maybe some animated animals, whatever else you chose to do, and then have your trigger in the middle of it. So you drive through, you got all your cattle markets set up with all your appropriate animals, even static animals if that's the way you want to go. I mean, they're in pens, so they're not going to be in the way or anything. So set up your pen, put your trigger in, drive through, and then you sell what you've got in your trailer and get your appropriate price, however you want to do that. But so we've changed the station name to cattle market, so that's fine. So all of that now is set up as I want it to be. So what I'm going to do now is actually save this, and then I will zip it all up, put it into game. As I say, I'm not going to sell any animals. All I'm going to do is go into the game, start a new game save in hard difficulty mode, and we will check our price multipliers do work and give us what we expected. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is just shut this down, and I'll zip it all up. I'll put it into game, and then I'll see you in a little bit once we're in game. Okay, so here we are now in game, and as I said, I'm not going to buy any animals. If I go into the animals section here, we can see you've got beef at 0, pig at 0, and horse at 0. The respected prices, as I showed you in the XML, so 250 for beef, 50 for pig, and 3,500 for a horse. So what I'm going to do now is actually just go into the in-game menu here, or the overview, whatever you call this. I think this is just the PDA, isn't it? Yeah, our PDA setup. So if we go across to our storage prices page, we come across the top, we can actually see that the cattle market is now showing up perfectly fine. This is the one that I actually copied or made a copy of, duplication of that trigger, that cell trigger, and then I renamed it to cattle market. So you can see that that's all shown up perfectly fine. So if I now just scroll down to our animals down the bottom here, you can see we've got our pig, beef and horse. Not worrying about the actual young pig, young beef and young horse, because that will be our purchase price, which will be shown up in our in-game store, which is just what I just showed you. But what we're looking for is our sell prices, which will be the pig, the beef and the horse. So if we actually look at our pig to start with, in the cattle market, £101, which is around about what I said I wanted to make for each pig. So moving on down to the beef, exactly £300, which is what I said I wanted to make on those. So that's fine, because they're $250 to actually buy, so I wanted to make fair good profit. Again, like I said, this is on hard mode, so I wanted to make, you know, a fair good profit on that, covering my costs and everything else. Same with the pigs, £50 in store to buy, £101 to sell, £50 profit or just about. So I think both of those are really good. Then on our horse, £3,500 to buy in store, £5,000 to sell. Remembering all of these multipliers, so I think this one was, what was this, 334 price multiplier on that one to give me a £50 profit. This one I believe was 2,500 price multiplier to give us the £300 £50 profit, and then the horse was a price multiplier of 50,000 to give me a to give me what I needed there for our profit. So yeah, all good. I think, you know, that's all been set up okay, perfectly fine. So what you could do now potentially is copy that, make another duplication of that trigger, call it something else again, whatever you want to call it. You know, taking a name from another map, Old World Meats from the can't remember the name of the map now, played it enough, but never mind, doesn't matter. So you could call it whatever you wanted, the actual trigger itself, and then put in some slightly different price multipliers, so you've got two different places that you could sell your actual products, your pig, beef and horse, or whatever it is you're trying to sell, and then adjust it in a manner that each one, so you've got, like for example, your cattle market, which you get your good prices, and your other place doesn't always give you quite such a good price, but when your great demand comes in, that other sell point does tend to give you a better, you know, a better return on your product. So, you know, with your great demands and everything else, two different triggers can play against each other and whatever else. So, and if you do it, you know, depending on how you create your map, you may find that the one that gives you the most is further away, so you have to drive quite a distance to get to it. But the one that's closest to where you're going to be selling your you know, the one that's actually closest to your fattening stations doesn't give you a good return. So you may need to drive a distance to get a good price, but then every now and again, when you get a high demand, that one that's only just down the road from your fattening stations gives you a better return. So, you know, however you want to play it into your game, your, you know, role play if you like, or whatever else, how you want to set your map up. If you are indeed creating a map or editing a map, you know, it just depends on, you know, what you've got, what map you're editing, or whatever you decide to do with that. So anyway, like I said, this is just about how to set up triggers, play around with the price multipliers to get your return prices and whatever else to make a profit on how you go about doing that. Now, as I said before, when you do play on difficulty modes, easy or normal, then these prices will be a lot higher. You will get much more for what you're selling. So, you know, potentially you could be getting £10,000 for each horse you sell if you play on easy mode. Might be 7,000, 8,000 if you're playing on normal mode. and then down to 5,000 obviously on hard mode, which is what this game save has been started as. And again, for your beef and for your pigs, they will obviously go up depending on which difficulty setting under hard you did, lower than the hard difficulty setting you choose to play on. So if you're playing on easy, you may find that for pigs you're going to get £300 per pig, and for beef you'll get maybe £1,000 per pig, or what for beef or whatever else. So it does matter what difficulty mode you are playing on. So when you set up your price multipliers, those price multipliers will be only on a 1-to-1 ratio for the hard difficulty mode. Any other difficulty mode, they will be somewhat different, so just bear that in mind. So yeah, there we go. So hopefully what I've explained there has been enough to give you an idea of how to set up your triggers for selling off your animals and whatever else. If I had more time, I would like to have got some pigs, beef and horses up together and then actually shown you selling them off, but unfortunately I'm just out of time today, so I can't do that. But hopefully I've explained enough that you can experiment with those triggers and get them working for yourself and whatever else. So thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.